Welcome everybody to a look at a new 4K release from Eureka via the Masters of Cinema series. This is number 208 and it is 1952's High Noon. So this is directed by Fred Zinnemann, who also did the really rather fantastic Behold a Pale Horse, which Indicator released earlier this year, as well as the fantastic The Day of the Jackal and the really rather great From Here to Eternity. So this is a Western clocking in at 85 minutes long, had a budget of $730,000, but in the US alone it made 3.75 million, so definitely a hit despite all of the nonsense controversy that was surrounding it at the time. And yeah, Star has one of the best all-star casts for any Western from this period. You got the likes of Gary Cooper, who was also in Man of the West, Cloak and Dagger, The Wreck of the Mary Dear, and Desire. Then you got Thomas Mitchell, who was in Stagecoach and It's a Wonderful Life. Lloyd Bridges, who was in Airplane and Blown Away, father of Jeff Bridges, so that's why it was in Blown Away alongside him. As well as Grace Kelly, who was in 3 of Alfred Hitchcock's films during the 50s, Rear Window, Dial for Murder, and To Catch a Thief. As well as Katie Girardo, who's in One Eyed Jacks and Pat Garrett and the Billy and the Kid. Otto Kruger, who was in Murder My Sweet and Magnificent Obsession, and finally Lon Chaney Jr., who has seen in 24 other films. I think he's the only actor to ever portray the Wolfman, the Mummy, and Count Dracula on the big screen. So, yeah, quite a staggering cast there. And yeah, this is about Will Kane, the sheriff of a small town in New Mexico, who learns the notorious outlaw he put in jail has been freed and will be arriving on the noon train. Now, knowing the outlaw and his gang are coming to kill him, Kane is determined to stand his ground, so he attempts to gather a posse from among the local townspeople. So, the cast is excellent, it is well paced, the plot is highly engrossing while it does things in a different but also satisfying way within the confines of the Western genre. Because our lead character, played by Gary Cooper, isn't some typical tough guy, or he's going to do it all himself, he doesn't need help or anything like that. He generally needs help because he knows he's up against it's 1 versus 4 basically, and he knows these 4 gunmen are well trained in what they are doing. They wouldn't have had a life of crime if they weren't. And yeah, so he does ask for help from the townspeople, and yet they are refusing to help him, even though he's the main reason why the town is as livable as it is in. So you can really see his desperation throughout the film, and because it does have a really rather a lot of tension due to the ticking clock element that is interwoven through its plot. It constantly is ratcheting up the tension. You're constantly seeing clocks in the background, clocks that are being shot intentionally to show that the time is running out, and you can really sense that desperation, and it is really really well done in that regard. The score is also brilliant. It is well shot, and yeah, its themes are also well realized, and yeah, because it's also dealing with like religion, whether or not violence is the right way to go about solving a problem, and all sorts of other things. And it's just a really, really well done effort. And yeah, but if you know the history of this film, you'll know full well that it came under a lot of controversy. Like so. John Wayne slated this. In fact, he made the film Rio Bravo, which is a great film, but he made that in response to this because he said this isn't how a western should be. But I feel like a western, quite frankly, by this point in time, really did need to be reinvented. Now, obviously, would have the revisionist westerns from the early 70s as far as American films go, but obviously Italian and films with the spaghetti western would also reinvent it in a lot of ways as well. And yeah, this is a really rather early precursor to both of those kind of films, to be honest. As yeah, like I said, it's doing things in a really really different kind of way. So there is the disc. Now we have a sleeve cover for this as well. So this has been released on Blu-ray before by Eureka, I believe. But I currently can't find it. It's somewhere buried on my massive shelf. So yeah, the reversible sleeve artwork that we have here is what was used on that release, I believe. And we also have a booklet to go along with this as well. Not a massive one or anything like that. We've got a couple of shots from the film. So you see the train tracks a lot because you're anticipating the arrival of the train. So inside we've got your cast and your crew. We also have Lee Van Cleef in this, by the way, in his debut starring role. Although he doesn't say a word in it. So yeah, which is unfortunate because obviously his voice would be integral to a lot of great films in the future. But also we have The Tin Star by John Cunningham from 1947. So that's the basis for this film's plot. And then we have On the Wane by Carl Foreman from 1974. Review of High Noon retrospective by Richard Combs from 1986. Viewing notes and the Ultra HD release credits as well. So yeah, that's a picture. Something about the Tin Star there that we've talked about already. So it has the entirety of that short story in there, which is about 18 pages long, I feel like. It's something like that, yeah. And yeah, viewing notes, it's presented in its 137 to 1 aspect ratio. And yeah. And on the disc itself, we've got the 4K 2160p Ultra HD presentation in Dolby Vision, HDR10 compatible, from a 4K digital restoration. Looks and sounds really, really rather good. One thing I did notice in this is that the gun noises in this sound way more realistic and hard hitting than other kind of westerns from this period. It's not like typical or anything like that. They really do feel loud and realistic and impactful. So yeah, they don't sound overly comical, but yeah, the picture quality and the sound quality overall is just really, really great. And yeah, I had no issues with it whatsoever. Then we've got optional English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. Audio commentary by historian Glenn Frankel, author of High Noon, The Hollywood Blacklist, and Making of an American Classic. So, like I said, John Wayne didn't like this at all. It also got brought up by the government as yeah, they figured it was a piece of communist propaganda, another part of the red scare wave that happened in the 50s, and it's complete nonsense, really. Just the fact that you've got someone asking for help, which is the main basis of this film. It is someone who, in a place of authority, although he is coming towards the end of his role as being marshal, just because he's asking for help and wanting to join up against these violent thugs with the people is, yeah, what's wrong with that? I see nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And then I'm not going to get into spoilers because the ending is probably something that wasn't entirely expected for a western, but the ending as well is really, really well done, and yeah, really satisfying. Then we've got audio commentary by Western authority Stephen Prince. Then we've got Women of the West, A Feminist Approach to High Noon, new video essay by Western scholar J.E. Smith. Then we got, or Smythe, then we got interview with film historian Neil Sinyard, author of Fred Zinnemann, Films of Character and Conscience, a 1969 audio interview with writer Carl Foreman from the National Film Theatre in London. Then we got The Making of High Noon, a documentary on the making of the film, Inside High Noon and Behind High Noon, two video pieces on the making and context of the film, theatrical trailer, and yeah, I don't think we've got new artwork or anything. Don't seem to say. But regardless, I do like the artwork that we have going on here. Now, my only issue with this release is the fact it doesn't feel quite special enough. I don't know, we have the slipcover and we have the booklet and such, but you look at other westerns that Eureka have released, like Johnny Guitar, which had a hard box and a much thicker booklet, I seem to remember. And yeah, given that this is a really rather iconic American Western film that is now also on 4K, I would have expected a slightly more special limited edition release, to be honest. But I still like what we've got. It looks great on 4K. It's one of my favourite Westerns, particularly from the 1950s, where there weren't that many that were trying stuff new, but this and the likes of Man of the West, which, like I said, also stars Gary Cooper, are two of probably my favourites from that period. Yeah, I just would have liked this release to have been that a little bit more special. But what is here is great, and at the end of the day, it's about the film, and the film itself is excellent and highly, highly recommended if you've not seen it already. So yeah, but if you have seen this film before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.